You know, when something goes wrong at work, the pressure is on to figure out why, right? But what if we're only ever seeing the tip of the iceberg? A real, proper incident investigation. It's not about the blame game. Not at all. It's about becoming a detective to uncover those hidden risks and ultimately build a genuinely safer workplace for everyone.
So let's think about this for a second. An accident happens, a machine fails, a project goes off the rails, or, where someone actually gets hurt. It is so easy to point to that one immediate mistake. But that's just the part of the problem you can see. The real causes, they're almost always hidden deep down, way beneath the surface. And that is exactly what we're going to learn how to uncover today. All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to break this down into 5 quick parts. First, we'll talk about why these investigations are so critical. Then we'll get our terms straight. What exactly are we looking for? After that, we'll walk through a simple 4-step process, dig deep for the real root cause, and finally, turn all those findings into action that actually makes a difference.
Okay, so first things first, why even investigate at all? It's really tempting to think it's just about finding someone to point the finger at. But honestly, that mindset misses the entire point. The real reasons we investigate are so much more constructive, and they're absolutely crucial for the future.
And you can see it right here in the data. There's a super clear priority. Yeah, of course, legal and insurance requirements are important. But look at this. The single biggest driver, at a whopping 40%, is prevention. The ultimate goal isn't just to explain what happened in the past, it's to protect the future. And you know what? A thorough, fair investigation has a huge impact on staff morale. It shows people that their safety is taken seriously, and that built a ton of trust.
Now, to investigate something properly, we all need to be speaking the same language. The words we use, like accident, near miss, or occurrence, they are not interchangeable. They really matter because they define the scope and the seriousness of what just happened. So let's get these definitions straight.
First up, we've got an accident. This is the one we're all pretty familiar with. It's an unplanned event that leads to a negative outcome. Somebody gets hurt, a piece of equipment gets damaged, or there's some kind of loss. The key word to remember here is actual harm occurred. Next, we have a near miss. Now, this is an event that had all the ingredients for an accident, but by sheer luck, nobody was hurt and nothing got damaged. A tool falls from way up high but lands in an empty spot. So here's the critical takeaway. The only difference between a near miss and an accident is chance, and we absolutely cannot rely on being lucky forever.
And finally, there's something called a dangerous occurrence. This one's a bit different. It's a specific high-potential event that you're often legally required to report to the authorities, even if it caused no immediate harm whatsoever. Think about a major gas leak in a totally empty section of a plant. The potential for disaster was huge, so it has to be investigated.
This scenario with the gas leak just makes the difference crystal clear. So, imagine a toxic gas leak. If it happens in plant C, way far away from any workers, it's a dangerous occurrence. If it happens next door in plant B, close enough to be a real threat but luckily nobody gets hurt, that's a near miss. But if that very same leak happens in plant A, right where people are working, it becomes an accident. See? The event itself is the same, the outcome is all about proximity.
Okay, so an incident has happened, we figured out what to call it. Now what? Well, you can't just wing it. You need a systematic playbook to guide you. So let's walk through the 4 essential steps to get this right.
The whole process breaks down into 4 really logical stages. You start by just gathering pure, factual information. No opinions, just facts. Then you analyze those facts to understand what caused the event. From that analysis, you can identify some control measures, and finally, you build a concrete action plan to make them happen. It's that simple. Fact, analysis, solution, action.
Now, step 1 is everything. It's the foundation, and getting it right is crucial. You gotta think like a detective here. First thing you do, secure the scene. Nothing in, nothing out. You find and identify your witnesses. You collect physical evidence, snap photos, check equipment readings. Then come the interviews. And remember, these have to be about understanding, not placing blame. And finally, you dig into the paperwork, the training records, the maintenance logs, the risk assessments. This is the bedrock of your whole investigation.
So we've gathered all the facts. Now comes the most important part of the entire investigation, the analysis. This is where we stop looking at the obvious symptoms and start diagnosing the underlying disease.
This forklift incident is a perfect example. The immediate causes, the symptoms, are super easy to spot, right? The driver braked too hard, the pallet wasn't secured, a pedestrian wasn't paying attention. A lazy investigation stops right there. But a real investigation asks why. Why did the driver brake so aggressively? Because there was no formal driver training. Why was the pedestrian in the way? Because there aren't any separate walkways for people and vehicles. Why wasn't the load secure? Poor procedures. This is the critical shift from just what happened to the systemic why was it allowed to happen in the first place.
And that brings us to the single most important idea in all of this. Here it is. Immediate causes are failures of people or parts, but root causes are failures in the system. Things like inadequate training, flawed procedures, or a poor maintenance schedule. If you only fix the immediate cause, you're just slapping on a Band-Aid. Fixing the root cause, that's how you cure the disease for good.
Look, an investigation that ends with a report just gathering dust on a shelf is a complete and total waste of time. The final, and I'd argue most critical phase, is turning your conclusions into concrete actions that will actually prevent this from happening again.
A strong action plan is what translates your findings into real commitments. It's not about vague suggestions. For every single root cause you find, there must be a specific action, a priority level, a deadline, and, this is critical, a named person who is responsible for seeing it through. This isn't just a list, it's a blueprint for accountability and for genuine change.
And really, that's the ultimate goal here, isn't it? This whole process isn't about closing a case file, it's about opening up a conversation. Every single incident, no matter how small it seems, is an opportunity. It's a chance to learn, to adapt, and to build a stronger, safer future for everybody.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Is your workplace truly preventing accidents, or is it just getting lucky? Because having a robust investigation process is what lets you stop relying on luck and start engineering safety by design. And the answer to that question can make all the difference in the world.